Shaping the Dream. A message from the Government of Canada.
Car Guys is a great show for people who want to learn how to fix their own cars.
All you really need are a few of the right tools.
The time?
And, of course, some tips, and that's where we come in.
Car Guys, check us out.
I think they should make Love Boat the movie. Okay, but listen, I have it all planned out. Okay, Robert Duvall as Captain Stubing, and Denzel Washington as Isaac, Cameron Diaz as Julie, and I play Vicky, Stolen.
Behind the Badge. Ontario's finest take our cameras behind the scenes of law enforcement, criminal investigation, and special police units at work. Find out what it takes to serve and protect.
TV has been offering great entertainment to more than 1 million Rogers customers. In June, be sure to tune into the Golf Channel to see great coverage of the U.S. Open live from Pebble Beach. From the opening round to the final hole, the Golf Channel brings you complete tournament coverage and in-depth player analysis. And as the season begins to heat up, be sure to watch the Golf Channel for the wide variety of instructional programs designed to help you improve your game and increase your enjoyment on the course. From tee to green, there's more of what you want to see on MeTV, so stay tuned.
Life is what we make it. See it every day on Rogers Television, Newmarket.
I'm John Dowson, and the program is Profiles. Since this is our last program for the current season, you're in for a real treat. As most of you know, on Canada Day, the town of Newmarket puts on a bang-up celebration at Fairy Lake. Now, in addition to the music, magicians, hot dogs, hamburgers, there are a group of volunteers who dress up in period costumes and relive our country's history by, in fact, they set up a militia camp right on Fairy Lake. You can't miss them, and you certainly can't miss hearing them, because when they fire off their rifles, everybody, or muskets, everybody can hear them. They're the Upper Canada Volunteer Regiment organization, and they specialize in reenacting the regimental history of our region. And I've got a brochure, and I'm going to read a little note from it, what it says. A new breed of historian is vividly bringing the past to life all over our province. They are active historians who devote their weekends and free time to recreate the events that have shaped our history through a historical reenactment. And it goes on to say they experience it, they taste it, and they feel it. But if you go to the camp at Fairy Lake on July 1st, you will be able to experience, taste it, and feel it. I want to welcome to our program, and I'm sure lots of viewers are interested in learning more about our living history, but also maybe they might want to join. And we have with us Matt Pendera, who's a private,
yes.
And Roger Holliday is the corporal, right?
Correct.
And we also going to meet later on Grant LaMarche, who's also a private, who's right off camera right now. So
he's a buck private.
Let's start with you, Matt. How did this all get started? This idea of the volunteer regiment organization. Did you found it, or?
Well, the living history that we do, reenacting in the United States, is huge. They've been doing it quite actively since the late '60s, and just the Victorian time period, the 1860s, was a big time period for the Americans. They had their American Civil War that went on down there. And I think presently there must be something like 75,000 reenactors that do just that time period in the States. And a lot of us up here that know a bit about history, we found out through reenacting in the American hobby. We carpool and drive down, take place and do the hobby down there, just for an escape. It's a great escape. You get away from TV, radio, your cars, mortgage, everything, and you live the life of someone else for a weekend anyway. And through reading and meeting people like Roger, Grant, and whatnot, we discovered that somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 Canadians fought in the American Civil War. A lot of them came from Ontario and Quebec.
Well, these people who have been bought by, was their enlistment was bought, or the people actually went over and volunteered?
There was a number of people that were in the States going to school and college and work and whatnot. Sailors down in New Orleans at the time and whatnot, and depending on one's political beliefs, which the gray or the blue that they fought for. But a lot of Canadians went down there because there was a bit of a recession going on in the country at the time, and they were offering $400 bounty, all the food you can eat, new clothes, shoes, see the world type attitude. You may not come back, but you come on down and experience, you know, the rest of the continent. So a lot of Canadians, the majority of them fought for the North, and combined the North and the South, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000. So partly, that's one of the main reasons why we reenact. We go down there and represent British North Americans, as they were known for the time period. And a lot of us up here, we like reenacting, and it's not always possible to you know, do a 14-hour drive down and then 14 hours back in one weekend without, you know, seriously damaging yourself. So we decided that you know, there's a lot of reenacting of that time period that isn't being done here, right in our hometown, right here in York
These
region.
are you're reenacting actual units that were in this area.
Yes.
I understand that you reenact the following regiments: the 12th York Battalion of Infantry, which is what you are today,
we're wearing right now,
and the 1st Light Artillery unit of 1866.
Yes.
This was the year of the Fenian raids. And also the Louisiana Regiment, Company K, which was a Confederate Army unit that fought in the American Civil War.
Exactly.
Now, were there Canadian, like you say, there were Canadians, but was this company from York region or something?
No, the 1st Louisiana was formed in one of the New Orleans parishes down there, right in Louisiana. But because of it being a main shipping port to all various countries in the world, there were Canadians down there in New Orleans, in that area. And some, as I said, it was one of the main ports, so that would be where Canadians who had an anti-Washington sort of feel to them would be a main inlet for them to go in and join up in Louisiana.
People whose fathers may remember the War of 1812. So here's your chance to get back in the North again. Yeah,
sure.
One
way of looking at it. So with the fact that there was Canadians down there in Louisiana regiments, that's why basically we chose. And basically draw a number out of a hat, and there's one.
Roger, you're how long have you been involved in this?
I've been involved for about 11 years now.
Really?
And I actually saw a couple of small ads in the paper before the 125th anniversary of Gettysburg.
Oh.
And that was one of the major events at the time where they'd have.
That's when they filmed the movie too, wasn't it?
That was just before the movie.
Oh.
A couple of years before, and they had 15,000 reenactors at that one. And primarily, most Louisiana regiments had a good mix of different nationalities because of it being that seaport. And you have to remember, back then everyone figured the war, like every war, is only going to last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Not carry on for 4 years. So it was like join up, get the excitement, get in there before it was over. And most Louisiana regiments had a fair number of Canadians in there.
They did.
I think the 1st had about 9, and the 10th Louisiana had 10 Canadians. And you know, there's actually a breakdown of all the nationalities.
Yes, there is.
Oh, everything you can imagine.
Now this uniform you have on here, this is 1866, so this would be after a couple of years after the Civil War, the States had ended.
That's
is
correct.
this a Canadian regiment?
Yes.
Purely Canadian militia.
And this would be in York region?
Yes.
Yeah?
Based on, and due to the Fenian raids, the Canadian defense had to really look at itself and set up battalions. It had local companies before then, like 1861 had the Aurora Infantry Company, and Brockville would have the Brockville Infantry Company.
And those were British units?
They were Canadian militia.
Oh, I see.
And they'd work by themselves at it, you know, and their officer was the person in charge of their training. But they found with the Fenian raids in 1866, there was not a lot of cohesion between a lot of these militia companies.
For some of the viewers that might not know, the Fenians were a group of Irish people who had, I think, mustered out of the U.S. Army and were planning on taking over Canada, hold for ransom to get to take higher freedom of Ireland, right? So it's a kind of a roundabout. Now they would be coming across the border from the United States to raid in Canada, or actually they were trying to take it over. But these were actually units, and they weren't messing around. They were firing.
They had over 30,000 on strength. They were allowed to drill openly in public in the U.S., United States, and they actually had a well-planned out 3-prong invasion of Canada. But in June of 1866, it was lucky only one of the prongs were actually working, coming across, and they came across with about 1,000.
And they came across whereabouts?
At Erie.
At Erie.
Buffalo,
Erie.
Because I know it's been quoted as Sherman, the general from the United States, but at the end of the Civil War was quoted as saying, well, we got these 100 and some odd thousand people in uniform, why don't we go north and take the rest of it?
Part of
and for some reason or other, they never did.
The old Warhawks were still alive.
Yeah, then, you know, he ended up going out west to fight the Indians. But so the Fenians, then these units then were, I mean, this was a legitimate threat to the country.
Very much,
yeah.
very much.
And that wasn't just some radical terrorist group that's blowing up the odd building. This was an organized invasion.
Yes, this is
and
correct.
these militia units were Canadian then, were they?
Yes.
And I guess they would have been boosted up at that time because of this threat.
Yes, like the actual uniforms we have on right now. In 1866, in June, Roger said the Fenians made one of their first major attempts at taking over the country, and the militia of the day, I believe one of them was the 13th Hamilton and the Queen's Own Rifles, were there to hold them off, and they held them off long enough when the British regulars finally got there, when the Fenians discovered they were fighting, you know, Canadian farmers and barbers, and you know, they said, well, you know, these guys are pretty good, so we'll come back next time. And
but
we'll
was an actual battle, though?
At Ridgeway, yes, it was.
Was there people killed and wounded?
Yeah, 35 Canadians were killed, and many more wounded. It was sort of nobody really won. I mean, technically, you could say the Fenians won the day because of some tactical problems on the field with the militia. But the Fenians never were never able to stay. They had to leave quickly. They left a lot of their gear, basically, right there, and were promptly arrested by the U.S. Marshals on the other side. Probably got a light little slap on the wrist or something.
No, but we've only got a couple minutes left before you go. So could you explain us a little bit about that rifle? I'm looking at this bayonet. I mean, just wicked.
Can I lay it on the table?
Yeah, put it up. Yeah.
Okay. This is a rifle. Should have the other one up here, but this is a Snyder Enfield.
Okay.
It's basically a single-shot breech loader. It is not a muzzle loader.
Oh, I see. So how does it?
And what they figured, you'd put your cartridge in there.
Right.
Close it, cock it, and then fire it. And it's got a firing pin, and that would discharge the round. Now, they had to get much more firepower on the field. So what they've done in this case was take a muzzle loader, taken 2 inches off the end, and put a breech on.
Oh, I see.
So you don't have to ram this. This is a breech loader. So this is the rifle that would get 10 rounds a minute. You'd open it up, kick that back, and just flip it out.
And what's the bayonet? I mean, this was wicked looking.
It's a tricorn bayonet, the same bayonet that would be on the 1855 pattern Enfield. And the length is primarily to, if you're in line or in square, to repel cavalry. You could, that length, you don't need a much shorter bayonet if you're in contact close with other infantry. But you do need the distance.
It's quite long. How long is this thing?
I think from the bottom of its locket to the tip, it's just 18 inches.
18 inches.
Long.
And that was for for horses then, right?
And personal contact.
You can appreciate.
But you need the length. So if you're dug in and you see the front rank kneeling and the rifle's up like this, in the second rank, you need that spacing.
Okay, we're going to go take a short break, and we're going to come back and we'll meet the other guy, Grant LaMarche. Don't go away.
Did you know the community of Holland Landing was for centuries a canoe launching place for natives and a post for traders of the Northwest Fur Company? Now you know it.
Hi, welcome back, and we're talking with Matt Pandera, and we're joined by Private Grant LaMarche, right? And you don't have a red tunic on. Can you tell us a little bit about your?
Well, we call this our drill smock, and essentially this
is a smock, isn't it?
It is. It's a tunic, but it's made of very light cotton, and this was made for us to wear around camp, during drill. Any times that we didn't wear the red coat, we had to appear dressed, so we had to have the tunic on.
Oh, I see. And that would be if you're working. Well, why would it be white? I mean, it gets dirty so fast. You know, you'd wonder.
That's a very good question, and we don't have the answer to that.
Maybe they didn't have dye in those days.
But it's like a lot of other things. We're wearing the white leather. Everything is very crisp and regimented, as Matthew said earlier. They want us to appear the same and uniform.
And what's that you have in your back there? What is that?
Well, this is the backpack that we had to carry all of our accoutrements during the campaign-style march. So in this, I would have 2 pair of socks, 2 pair of drawers, and any other shirt, any other things that I would need during a campaign.
And this was your kit?
That's correct.
Your kit there, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that in pictures I've seen of the American Civil War, the soldiers had a tunic and pants, but everybody seemed to wear their own shirt. Would this be the same in the British? You wouldn't
I think the Canadian militia may have been at one time issued a standard, proper white shirt, but many photographs you see of the day, guys in camp, they're wearing their farm shirts, they're wearing their plaid shirts.
Yeah, the regular shirt underneath the tunic.
Yeah, really. Save the white shirt for Sunday,
Yeah, but you've got
that's why we had this, was to put over what we wore.
So you'd all look the same. You had your own shirt there,
The white was inexpensive, easy to make.
Yeah, because there could be different colors and checks and all kinds of things. Right. So now you're all looking the same. Now, that's only if you're working around camp, right?
Yeah, or even doing marching where we didn't require the red coat. We wouldn't be wearing this 24 hours a day. We'd be wearing this most of the day. During a battle or parade, or dress parade, we'd be wearing the red coat, of course.
Now, what about the hat? Now, you say that they went into battle with this thing on?
That's right.
That's the hat.
That's the hat. Yeah. And why has it got that little top, and why are they built like this?
Now, the hats have developed over the years, and when you read a lot of historical things, even the Americans too, in the 1812, they had these god-awful big, tall, they called them stovepipe hats. They were a shako, and they were really top-heavy. They fell off, and a lot of guys ended up just wearing their farm hats, in Washington's army. But the British Army always adhered to this uniformity and whatnot, and as I sort of mentioned earlier, depending on the height of the man, this type of a hat was easy to make different heights, so that what you did was your infantry of the line all looked typically the same height. All the men looked the same height.
Oh, I see.
So one hat's taller than the other. Actually,
Matthew would wear this one. Matthew was taller than I, would wear this particular shako with the shorter
oh, I see. So they would all like uniforms, so that's the height.
Even the backpack that he's wearing, a man that would be 6'2", the belts would be adjusted, the harness would be adjusted so that the pack was worn lower on the back, and a shorter man it was worn higher, so that when you looked at the men from the back down the line, all the packs looked fairly level as well.
That'd be the job of the sergeant to make sure
sergeants
it was all...
and corporals,
yeah.
Corporals and lance corporals even would look after.
And what about this little hat here? This one here?
Yes, the worst hat ever made. More of us have lost skin on our ears and nose from being burnt in the sun wearing that thing. But that was the dress-down hat. That was your forage cap, known as a Kilmarnock, very similar to the pillbox.
Would you go into battle with this kind of hat?
No, but
it's what I would be wearing in this particular. If I was configured like I am right now, I'd be wearing the Kilmarnock as well as the shako.
That's what this is called, a Kilmarnock.
That's correct.
But what about this kepi that you see that they wore in the Civil War? Was it something like this, but it seems
the concept of the kepi and the bummer had the rounder top on it, was to be a shako-like hat. But they found when the cost of manufacturing hats like that was extensive, so they never put the solid cardboard liner in and whatnot, and you got this scrunched sort of...
So you just let it fall down?
They would wear it scrunched down and pushed up forward, and then the top of the hat, they would have their unit number and the bugle and whatnot, and the regimental.
So it came out of because it looks like this, yeah.
The Prussians had the similar, the French, pretty much all over the world. That was kind of the fashion.
And so if you didn't put the cardboard insert in it, then it would just
pretty much.
It's essentially the same shape exactly without the side on it.
Now this rifle here we're looking at, which is different than the one that Roger had.
Yes.
What is this one here? Now, these are both rifled.
Yes. At this time period, and you get into the Victorian time period, pretty much all nations around the world knew the advantages of a rifling inside their barrels, made for accuracy, and the idea was you wouldn't have to close the armies in so close. You're losing so many men when you're marching men in within 50 to 100 yards of each other, and just pointing and shooting. It's like a turkey shoot. So now you've got the rifling, which allows the bullet to spin and gives you accuracy, and you figure you could hold your men back. The concept of the rifling was also so the infantry could wreak havoc on artillery, which was several hundred yards out in the hills. Now the infantry is effective against artillery, and charging cavalry at a further distance, your infantry is...
This is pretty heavy, though.
They're all very heavy rifles.
And they were heavy like this? This
Pretty
is
much.
about 20 pounds?
No, 12. Actually, it's only 12 pounds. But
Gee, but I mean, you carry this thing for 30 miles.
Now, at the end of the day, your arm
it feels like 20 pounds.
The other,
I bet it would.
now, this particular is the earlier version of what Roger was holding. This is a reproduction, but it's an exact replica of an 1855 pattern.
And what he had was an actual
1867 original. Yes, he has an original one, which had the breech cut at the back and a different
Had
system.
the Snyder breech mechanism inserted within the breech.
Now, with these units in York region, you call yourself the Upper Canada Volunteer Regiments Organization. This would be 1866 would be Upper Canada, Lower Canada, or Canada West, or whatever.
I think officially it was now Canada West, Canada East, and then in 1867, when we actually became a country of our own, the colonies were no longer Canada East, Canada West. They became actual provinces. It wasn't the province of Canada anymore. They were the sub-province of our own country. So, but I think a lot of people still referred to themselves as Upper Canada.
So would there be any connection with the regiments that you're portraying to York County at the time?
Yeah, we are the 12th York Battalion of Infantry, which was formed in this county, in York County.
In York County?
Yes, because of the Fenian raids that went on. They discovered that.
And where would the headquarters be, Toronto or here?
I believe the headquarters were in Aurora for quite some
time,
right until 1870, yes.
So this is a York County
regiment? We were not a Toronto regiment at all, no.
And you're dressed up the same way, right?
That's correct.
And so did they actually fight in the Fenians, the York County group?
I believe
the 12th York Regiment.
Members of the 12th York Regiment were present down when the first Fenian raid in 1866 took place, but the 12th York Battalion did not exist yet. Because of that actual raid where men were killed, and the Canadian government at the time said, you know, this is the real thing. Like, we've been talking about having battalions. I think we better do that. The 12th York was formed out of that.
And a militia was not a full-time regiment. These are sort of weekend soldiers, right?
Drilled once a month. And
same as they do now?
$1 a year back then or something to that effect. And once a year during the summer, I forget the exact date, Darcy would know, all the militia battalions formed up down at Lake St. Clair, I believe it was, and had a great big 7-day militia encampment where they were drilled every day, extensively drilled and trained, and any new tactics or any new equipment that would come in, they would be issued there, and then back on the train and then back home. So
this was formed for the defense of the province of the country.
Of the country.
I mean, it wasn't just some kind of a weekend soldier or march on Sunday parade.
It was taken seriously now.
Yeah.
It started to be taken seriously now, and that's when Great Britain started sending over boatloads of uniforms for the Canadian militia. The buttons, these buttons are authentic buttons, and it's time to treat these people like, you know, Great Britain realized such a huge country, a huge colony that they had here. They, you know, being the biggest empire in the world at the time, that they just didn't have the money and the manpower to have, you know, 20,000 British regulars garrisoned here year after year after year. Canada had to defend itself.
Well, because I've seen in Fairy Lake, you know, during Canada Day, you have this little you march up and down in an actual. You're doing drills and so on. I mean, are those authentic drills and that kind of thing that you do?
They actually are. We do most of what we do exactly as it was done during the period. That's right.
Using this book here.
Even the clothing we wear, everything we wear is virtually authentic, or as authentic as we can get it.
And this is the field exercise of evolutions of infantry, which is that would be the drill sergeant's handbook, right? Yeah. And you use the drills are right in here.
Yes.
So
we don't use all of them because some of them are so complex, and we don't have, you know, hundreds of men on the field.
But will you be at Fairy Lake again this year?
Yes, we will.
Yeah. Yeah. So this show is airing just a week before.
Well, that's good.
So you're going to be down there July 1st,
fresh in people's minds.
And you actually put a camp and everything on, really, don't you?
We will set up an encampment. We're going to camp out on the night before. I believe it's Friday night.
Right.
There'll be some music. Some of our guys are playing instruments, campfire, and during the next day we'll do firing demonstrations. We'll do what we call the children's parade. We have small red coats that the kids will all put on, and we drill the young ones.
Oh,
and
really?
they love it, and the parents love it too.
Because I've been there, and I've seen you eating stew, you make food, and everybody really gets into it. You have the families go down, too, right?
Some of us have wives that are interested.
Yeah.
Let's don't.
Thank you for calling it stew.
Or whatever.
Whatever
But and then one year you did there was someone did an invitation of a field amputation, you know, and I taped the whole thing. I got it on videotape at home. It was it's gruesome, but I mean, it looks great.
That's right.
So that's on Fairy Lake on July 1st. Where else will you be this summer? If anyone wanted to see you and they missed you at Fairy Lake.
Geez, where are we going to be?
Well, most of what we do ends up being not in town, unfortunately. Yes, we'll do a parade in Unionville. I believe that's Father's Day weekend, or is it June 3rd? On our website, you'll find a listing of all the events.
Oh, you have a website?
We have a website.
What's the website? I think they're going to punch it up on the...
Yeah.
They're showing it on the screen, the website.
Good. It's a long one.
Yeah, it's a long
but
one.
on the website, you'll get a bit of a history of the unit itself or the organization, plus history of the individual units that we portray, as well as a listing of events that we're going to be doing this year. And there's also a photo album, pictures of what we've done over the years.
And so if someone looking in and wanted to be interested, could they join?
Of course, yes.
There's an email link
So
on
bring
the
your own
website.
rifle and join up. Is that the idea?
Just bring yourself. We'll get you set up.
I'm sorry, there was an email link on the...
There's an email link on the website. You can send me an email and I'll give you all the information you need. We do have a quartermaster with stores. Most of what you see us wearing right now is available.
And is there a phone number if people can phone too if they want?
Well, they can call myself if they wish.
And that's what is that number?
853-5953 in Newmarket.
Oh, you're right in Newmarket?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back and we're going to wrap up. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Call us and tell us what you think of the show. Phone 836-7197. You can write to us at 395A Muloff Drive, Newmarket, Ontario, L3Y8P3. And you can visit our website at rogerstelevision.com.
Right, we're back and we're talking to the Upper Canada Volunteer Regiment organization, and you're going to be down, because this program is going to air, this is our last show of the year, at Fairy Lake.
Right.
And if people want to go down Friday night, can they go down and watch your camp, and you'll have campfires and camp songs, that kind of thing?
That's what we're planning, yes.
And the old guitars I used to play?
We enjoy it. It's not just for the public to watch us. We very much enjoy camping out and doing what we do. And as I said before, everything we do is authentic. We'll have what we call a dog tent there. It's just basically a piece of canvas stretched over a couple of sticks to keep us dry.
Okay.
Slept right on the ground.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing you down there again this year and listening to you fire off the rifles. As I said, this is our last show for the season, but we'll be rerunning some of your favorite programs throughout the summer months, so be sure to tune in. And if you want to see and hear these fellows in action on Fairy Lake on Canada Day, and watch for some of the other events that they'll participate in throughout the summer. So until next season, I'm John Dowson. Bye for now.